Each of you have your own creative medium that you use in the work that you do: cultural storytelling, dance, and music. Could you give us sort of a story of the power of that medium and how it's impacted young people that you've worked with?
Music is powerful, yes? I think, what is really interesting to me is I bring a drum circle, and the circle itself is a powerful thing. It just creates this real safe container, and when I say music is powerful, even before you hit the first note or the first beat, it can be a powerful thing. I go room to room, and I bring my guitar through the hospital, and I just knock on the door and I say, "Hi, my name's Carl. I like to sing. You want to sing a song?" And they always say yes, just like you would, right? Yep. Well, I remember one time I actually didn't say much when I walked in. I just walked in. I had my guitar around my neck, and this little girl jumps up on the bed and just kind of starts dancing. And it was just an amazing thing. And I was thinking, what just happened? She saw the guitar. Just the anticipation of that beautiful moment, and with the drum circles, we're dealing with creating that safe container. A lot of times in a psychiatric services, they'll come in as a large group. They wanted to have a group activity that everybody could do together, and it's a tough clientele to be able to do that. They're dealing with a lot of emotional pain. And so you get a group that sometimes they want to really be that person that everybody listens to, and they want all the attention. And then you have half of the group that's just trying to hide. And so the rhythm, and actually the circle itself, and the music is the great equalizer. It just kind of tones down the ones that need all the attention, and it just kind of brings out the ones that want to hide. And I noticed that with that steady beat, just like any kind of thing. Could you hold that for a second? If you were to go ahead. When I cross my hands, everybody clap once. Almost perfect. Do you notice how you felt connected for just a second as a room? Just rhythm will bring everything. It'll bring everybody into a place together, and it'll also bring everybody into a present moment together, because you weren't thinking about anything except for keeping that beat. And I think that's briefly the power that music and connection and equalization can create that safe container.
Thank you, Carl. I'd be really curious. I mean, music and dance, so intricately connected. How does it relate with the dance that you do in your programs?
Yeah, so just like Carl was sharing about the pure presence that comes when we're practicing our art or in a creative experience, I witness that every time I'm in the program space, every time I'm in the dance studio. I see students walk through the door, and maybe they've just come from an argument with mom in the car, or maybe they've been taking tests at school all day, being confined in a sitting position, and we step onto the dance floor and we move. And there is something that begins to release as we move the body. This is how trauma releases. We have to move the body in order to move the trauma out.
Like moving together as a group.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so just like the heartbeat of the drum, as we're moving our bodies in unison, we're feeling that unified energy with rhythm and dance. I see students able to tap in to their body's wisdom. I see students be able to transcend the stress that might have built up from the day or from many months before that, right? And release and restore and change their emotional state. We feel better after an experience of movement and dance. We feel better after an experience with music. We feel better after storytelling, connection through words, poetry. And so the work at Transcendence is really built on that foundation. That creative expression is not just an add-on, is not just an extra. It is vital to our health and well-being. It is what makes us feel human. It's what makes us feel powerful. And it can change our outlook on how we see the world. So I consider this work extremely important and as a part of the remedy to restore humanity.
Amy, I'd love your take on just the importance of cultural storytelling and identity creation and the power that you've witnessed in the kids that you work with.
Notung Amy Admayaka, no washnai, no paumkoish. Amy from the Rincon Indian Reservation here in San Diego County. So Mr. Brooks said that he couldn't imagine a place or where he felt attacked all the time, or like people were out to get you all the time. And for the most part, that's what our Native and Indigenous students feel here in California. So we use storytelling as a way to foster belonging and to remind them that they belong in all the spaces. A lot of times we grow up and we're told, that we only belong between the cattle guards, and if anyone's visited our reservations, they largely have a cattle guard in and a cattle guard out. But our homelands extend from Encinitas to San Luis Obispo, and from Camp Pendleton to Palomar Mountain. And so we really want our children to understand that. And our stories, the creation stories that we study, remind them of those places, and that those lands still belong to them. They still can be stewards of those land, not only through our storytelling projects, but through our land restoration projects. And our language helps us connect in that we learn the names before colonization. So for example, my grandfather's villages are at what is now Camp Pendleton, and there's names for those places, right? So one of those names is Ushmai, and Ushmai means Little Rose Place. So it helps us connect to our ancestors, helps us to remember what our ancestors saw before it was Camp Pendleton. And the language also, our spirits don't speak English, right? So we're actively in preservation mode and reclamation mode. A lot of our reservations have language programs going on right now and cultural programs. So our language helps us to stay connected to our ancestors. And I'm sorry, I forgot what I was just going to say.
No, I mean, it's incredibly important. And I think, so often in Western society, we think of medicine as a pill. And I guess I wonder, would you go so far as to say language and storytelling?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. That is our medicine, right? It's hard to express ourselves when our DNA is saying that we need to express ourselves in another way. And an example of that is we have a term, Noshuni Nanak, and we use it for like I'm sorry or apologize, but it really means my heart is crying, right? So we can help them with some of that anger that they're feeling from spaces where they do feel attacked, spaces where they do feel unwanted, but help them to better express themselves through their own language. And we see that it works. I want to say that we have, for 25 years, myself and my colleague have committed our life to the storytelling program. And we have raised a generation of young people who've been with us since third grade, who now are doing this work with us, who are now doing their own programs, and one of them's waving at me in the back there, Mr. Salvador. And so, yeah, very blessed to do this work in the space that we have created for the young people.
And you might not know the answer to this, but like nationwide, I mean, what percentage of Native and Indigenous youth might have access to something like this?
I really can't say, because we are one of the only groups doing storytelling in this way. Our children have been performing pre-COVID 24 shows a year, including at spaces like UCSD, UC Santa Barbara. We do a lot of Indigenous Peoples Days, Native American Days, which I hope you all know Native American Day is September, the last Friday in September, and it's in its 53rd or 4th year. So yeah, and I always tell our students too that they don't really understand how important what they're doing is for their children. One of the goals of the storytelling program was to not just produce books, which we do, to sit on shelves, but to have the performances, to have the stories come to life. So our students perform parts of our creation story.
Beautiful. Carl, you work with teenagers, young people that have really big emotions at Rady Children's Hospital. Some are on the psychiatric unit. What have you learned about your presence, the way you show up, rhythm, the creating of a space that allows kids to share those big emotions in a safe way?
Yeah. We all need to feel welcomed. We all need to feel that we're a part of when we enter a space. And we all have the ability to welcome. So often in a clinical environment, we walk through the experience where we just have to do our duty, but that first embrace. I mean, with the music, I also bring the rhythm to a eating disorder clinic, as you know, in the hospital. And I have a hand pan. It's a steel drum, and it creates tone and rhythm. And I play that as they're coming out of their rooms and they're going to have their morning breakfast. And as you can imagine, for your morning breakfast meal for an eating disorder clinic can be a little stressful. And that initial welcome, I think, is so important. And I think that's something we all can do, not just in a clinical environment or anything else, just in our daily life, is that be that person that smiles and has an openness as we're walking in public, and that embrace of realizing and acknowledging that there's another human on the other side of our gaze. And I think that simple thing that I've noticed so often, and as you know, in a hospital environment, the staff it's a high stress, overworked kind of experience, and sometimes we can be more focused on what we have to do rather than just connecting with that child or that parent. And as you can imagine, parents are going through more stress than the kids are, the ones who are dealing with whatever they're dealing with in a hospital. And a smile and an embrace and a welcome, it can be so powerful.
Well, and I've never told you how we met, the backstory of it, but I was a child psychiatrist on this unit. And I think it was Thursday at that time, when I'm trying to do my notes, there was all this racket coming through the wall. And it was holding me back from getting my work done. So one day, I decided I'd go and figure out exactly what all this noise was, and I sat down in your circle.
Music, Ben, music.
Yeah, it was good, but through the drywall, it sounded a little muffled. So I felt that welcome that you're talking about, and I'm sure you remember I then subsequently joined regularly. It gave me that same feeling I got as the boombox in the driveway playing basketball as a kid. I felt alive. I felt the healing power of that. And it's just incredible that we can do that. You mentioned clinical spaces. I guess I wonder, so often we have clinical spaces that are in this box, and the arts and the creative work that you all do in a separate box, and so rarely can we find ways that those come together. I'd be curious to understand what you all think we might do to bridge that gap more, to make them part of a cohesive thing that kids find themselves in that environment.
I'd love to speak to that because that's actually a foundational part of our program model and how we work with young people. So in our community arts centers, there are licensed clinicians, psychotherapists, and it's right off the dance floor. And so this work of doing creative expression as a creative practice multiple times a week, and also having mentors, adult mentors in the space as teaching artists, as program staff, combined with the opportunity to do more traditional talk therapy, that it's all working together and it's not siloed. So our teaching artists, our program director, and our clinicians are in conversation, checking in about the students, about how they're doing, about what support they might need that week. And so there's this holistic approach to it that is happening in a space where the youth feel at home. So there's not a, let me go out and go to this medical center to receive therapy. It's happening under one roof that feels like a sense of safety, that their caregivers are connected to, that possibly their siblings are connected to. And it's a multi-year journey. So instead of going to receive therapy for 6 weeks, students are invited to have a multi-year experience where dance and performance and talk therapy and mentorship are all part of the model that supports young people feeling alive, young people thriving. And just like Amy was talking about, the alumni, the students who participate for many years and then become the teaching assistants, become the mentors, become the teaching artists and choreographers, that is definitely an important part of what we do that makes it so powerful, that the students see themselves in the program leaders, that the students come from the same neighborhood as the teaching artists that are in front of them. And so it is all of these things working together that creates that deep impact.
Amy, I'd love to hear more about how mentorship plays a role in the work that you're doing, because it seems so critical for kind of maintaining these cultural identities and stories that exist and the language that exists.
Well, I think most of us know the importance of mentorship in our schools and in our children's lives. And I think it's not any different with our students either. A lot of where spaces they're at, they don't have a lot of people who look like them or have their same lived experience. And so for me, we work a lot with the schools, so it's really important for the schools to be open to having community members on campus, and to continue fostering those mentorship and relationship roles that the adults in their communities have with the Native and Indigenous young people. And then we create, again, spaces outside the schools for that mentorship to happen. But yes, we do see the very importance of it. Like I said, we've watched our young people now doing this work, and we feel blessed that the parents have allowed us to raise the young people as their mentors alongside them, and so very grateful.
So I'd like to end with one question to each of you of what you think society could do to bring together the creative arts and healing better, if we haven't touched on it already, to bring that up. And then I'd also like, at the end, we can share some of the experiential things that you'll each be doing throughout the day.
I have a great question for you to think about when you meet someone or meet a young person especially, is that if you could play an instrument, what would it be? If you could play an instrument, what would it be? And if you want to just see the light in someone's eyes just kind of get a little brighter, that possibility. Now, if they already play an instrument, they'll tell you right away. But if not, it might be the first time that it will be a moment where they'll actually think of the possibility. It's the first thing I ask the kids at the hospital. I ask the drum circle. And the drum circle that we do in the psychiatric services department is not about learning how to drum. It's about learning how to listen. When bands play together, they have an audience out here, but we're listening to each other more than we're focused on the audience, because that's when the true steady beat really is happening. And what can happen is start thinking about asking the question and maybe putting the idea that someone can play an instrument, even a little. Even today, you all have the opportunity to come and drum with me. From 11 to 12, we're gonna have the drums set up, and just for a moment to be able to drum together with your community and feel that and have that experience can be a powerful thing. And it's very powerful for a young person to be able to realize that just by sitting down in front of an instrument, they can actually play and create music, not after many hours of practice, but right now. And then we also focus on everyone else being able to lead there as well. So we drum together, we stay with a steady rhythm, and the whole time I'm facilitating, but I'm also letting them know I'm just teaching you how to lead. So I'll do this for a few minutes, and then someone else can lead, if you choose. And so that's, so I think it's society, just societal, it's very simple that we can encourage others to just realize that music is powerful, yes? And it can be powerful in the simplest way.
Beautiful.
For me, like you're saying, music is power. I want to speak to the schools, I guess, but in our district where we're at, we, according to Impact Aid, have the second highest number of Native students in the state. Over 500 Native students in our school. And I feel that we should be not just having, celebrating Native American or Indigenous Peoples Day once a year, but there are already laws from the federal government that say that our Native culture should be integrated into the schools. So I really feel that our administrators should be looking at what isn't being provided to our Native students and what can be provided, and call upon the community to have relationships with us, to find out what those things are, and listen to our students. What do our students want to see? We are singers, we are dancers, our music is part of our DNA, our dances are part of our DNA. So I really believe that should be integrated for our students, for their mental health and their well-being and their inclusion and their sense of belonging in their schools.
Beautiful. Kat?
I'd like to see the world reimagine what the arts can be.
Yay!
Yes, it's a great outlet, and it allows us to access powerful tools for healing, belonging, and transformation. It requires consistent, stable investment and resources. It means that our schools are making time for it, that it's considered an essential part of the school day. It means that there are adequate spaces to practice our art, and those spaces are taken care of. We have 9 students from Transcendence here today. They're out of school today to be a part of this and to be with you. So alongside the drum circle, which I know will be an amazing opportunity, we invite you to come join us at one of the Casa del Prado dance studios from 11 to 12. And you will see the power of dance and song and community connection at work with the 9 students and a couple of our Transcendence artists. It'll be low stakes, very light, very playful, because I know dance can sound scary. But we'll move in a gentle way and tap into all the magic and power that the arts hold for every human being.
A round of applause for these incredible leaders. Yeah.